and I need to embrace what my spirit is saying to my mind. How does Paul put it? He says, I pray that the eyes of your understanding be enlightened. Because what God does is he moves himself outside of our senses, but he enters inside of our spirits, which means then that when you think you're alone, you're really not alone, because God has left himself outside of my sensual perception, but he is in my spirit. It's a fearful thing in that I don't see him, and I can't touch him, and I can't lean on him, and I wish I could cry on him. I wish he could come and talk to me face to face and tell me that it's going to be all right. But I don't see him sensually, but sensually I perceive what I have to battle, and it seems as if I'm battling by myself. But I've got news for you. He is the power that has kept you from capitulating to your circumstance. And there is a blessing that we have failed to give God praise for, because in the middle of the battle sometimes we are always thinking about what has happened to us, and sometimes when you think about what has happened to you, you fail to believe in what God is getting ready to do for you. Let me go over that again. You see, there is a to you, and the to you has now constituted the historicity of your existence, and you have documented all the things that have happened to you, but you need to have another column on that piece of paper, and the other column ought to be the things that are about to happen for you. Don't get too carried away with the to you that you forget the for you. I feel like preaching here. The man came to Jesus, and he came to Jesus with the little boy, and he said, Jesus said to him, now what's been going on in this boy's life? And he kept saying, well, this is what the devils have tried to do. They tried to drown him since he was a little boy, and they've tried to burn him up since he was a little boy. And what Jesus is looking at, and when you look from his perspective, the man now is seeking compassion, and he's seeking a limited operation, because he says, whatever you can do, if you can do anything, have compassion on us. The anything is born out of what has happened in the past. And what I would like to say to him is, he's been trying to burn you up since he was a boy, and he hasn't done it yet. Just go over your life and look in your past to the things that have been done to you, and yet with all that have been done to you, you were still here. I wish I could preach. Do you know, give me a chair, I need to sit down. Do you know how many demons have plotted against you, and how many people have set up outposts looking to destroy you, and do you know how many times satanic powers have used individuals to dispose of you? And do you know how many plots have been laid out and conspiracies to completely obliterate you? And yet still you are still here. I want to preach. I'm not preaching to everybody. I'm preaching to that one somebody that came here today ready to give up. I've come to tell you that I don't care who's chasing you. If you just get to that little corner where you can pick that power pill up, that little Pac-Man pill, and whoever's chasing you who haven't got you, you're going to be chasing them in a minute. And all you need is to touch and agree, because one can chase 1,000, but two can put 10. I feel something happening here. It is important to understand that the loneliness you feel is the fact that God has stepped up into your spirit and you have received him by faith. But until you acknowledge it psychologically, you have to tell yourself, in the midst of your sickness, in the midst of your pain, in the midst of your disappointments, in the midst of the enemy coming after you, that I am really not alone. Because had I been alone, I would have been destroyed. But God has been monitoring the size of my battles, and he said, I will put no more on you than you're able to bear. I feel the Holy Ghost. I might have to bear it crying, but I'm going to bear it. I might have to bear it disappointed, but I'm going to bear it. I might have to bear it hurt, but I'm going to bear it. I might have to bear it broken, but I'm going to bear it. And after the course is over, I'm coming up out of the ground with all power in my hands. I feel the presence of the Lord in here. You might hurt, but it ain't gonna be forever. You might be down, but it's not going to be forever. You might be talked about, but yes, that's gonna keep on talking. They just gonna change their language. Might as well have church. Y'all rest. I gotta go to work. Oh, Lord, help me just a minute here. It is true now, because the trust then, it seems so much like you're simply trusting yourself. But the truth is, if he is in you, he has to operate within the parameters of your faculty. It is the mind that has to release your spirit. But the mind is caught between what's going on the outside and how he's talking to you on the inside. I feel the power of God. You gotta understand this, that in all that he went through with that little boy, he was still coming to Jesus. So in his mind, he's been trying to do it, and Jesus asked him for our sake, so that we could understand the history of what was going on in his life. He already knew it, but he wanted to talk to a 21st century city of refuge, and he wants to tell the city of refuge, yes, you have documentation of what has happened to you, but I need you just to switch a little bit in your mind, because you are going to tell me if you have compassion, do anything, and I'm going to tell you, if you just believe, I can take you out of the anything bus and put you on an all things transportation. You gotta get away from what happened to you and begin to see what's getting ready to happen for you. It'll change the way you move. Oh, I feel it. I'm not going to keep you too long. But the truth of the matter is that in spite of all that has gone wrong in your life, you still see yourself in a better place. I feel it here. In spite spite of the divorce and how catastrophic and nasty it was, for a minute you couldn't see yourself with anybody, but you're seeing yourself now happy going through the mall. In a minute, the last job just crashed and burned, and you didn't get the position you wanted, and now you see yourself running your own business in spite of all the negative folks have said, and in spite of how poor you have been. You still see yourself driving that latest Benz, the one you have always wanted. You still see yourself living in that house. Every now and then when it gets tough, God sends a vision to your mind and sends a dream into your spirit that says, in spite of how nasty things have been, I'm still a dreamer. I still have vision. I still believe. That's why you call me a believer. And believers are survivors, because you can't get the dream out of my mind, and you can't get the vision out of my spirit, and you can't get the hope out of my step, because I got up today with expectation that weeping may endure for a night, but joy is coming in the morning. Have I told you, touch your neighbor yet? It's almost there. It's critical because he's in you, and he's got to operate within the cortex of your own minds. That's why he said, don't be conformed to the vicissitudinous changes of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Touch your neighbor, say, I'm a transformer. I'm a transformer. I need to switch into something else now. I need to turn into something else. I need to move into something else. Yes, this problem calls for another kind of approach. This I can rationalize. This I got to rebuke. This I can think my way through. That I got to call on God. You got to know what's in your arsenal. You got to know what tools you have in order to understand I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I feel something moving here. I feel the power of the Holy Ghost. I feel a little church coming on. I'm talking to somebody, that one person in here that I picked up your spirit when I was coming, and I picked it up that you're about to give up, and the victory is almost at your foot. You just one step away from what God has promised you, and you've come through too much hell to abort it right now. The devil is a liar. I've cried too much. I've sweat too much. I've been bruised too much and hurt too much for you to think I'm going to back off now. I am about to move into the next level, and there's nothing the devil can do about it. I feel like preaching here. I'm almost there. That's why Jesus had to do something to give us an assurance. And what he had to do to give us an assurance, God's with you. Come on, minister. Somebody minister right here. Come on, preacher.